Welcome to Sravz Technical Series. In today's session, we will discuss the IBKR Python's API usage, and using that API and using IBKR's Python client, we'll place a test order on the IBKR paper trading account. So before we go through that disclaimer, these IBKR sessions are for training and research purpose only. Please consult your investment advisor before making any investment decisions. So before we start, I'll quickly go through the documentation which is mentioned here. So this is the data flow diagram. We'll have a Python client provided by IBKR itself, Interactive Brokers. Using that Python client, we'll connect to IBKR's Gateway API. IBKR provides two software components for developers. One is the Trader Workstation, which is a Java-based UI. And then there's another thin proxy, which is called Gateway API, which is just a proxy which runs on your local machine. And using that proxy, you can connect to IBKR servers. You cannot connect directly to the IBKR server. You have to run either of these two on your local machine. In our case, we'll use the Gateway API. And using the Python client and the Gateway API, we'll send orders to IBKR server, and then we'll cancel that order also. So just show that we can create and delete. The source code for the today's session, the IBKR Python client, is available here for download, or you can sign up a collaborative agreement with IBKR and then get their access on the GitHub. So how did we set up the Gateway API? If you have gone through the other courses like Golang Crash Course or the Docker env setup, there we have used Docker Compose to set up a development environment, and we were using VS Code to run the development within the containers, and all these containers share a common Docker network. So on that common Docker network, which is not accessible outside world, we will run the IBKR container. So this is the image I used, and this is the link to that. So I pasted the link to that Docker image here. So in our session, we'll have no VNC access to the IBKR Gateway API at port 6080, which I opened here. So it's running right now. I logged in already. And then I just click the show API log messages. So when we send the order, we can see the log messages here. So the Gateway API is open. And then we didn't expose the API port to the event to the host network. So since our development environment runs on the Docker network, it can access port 8088. Then per that GitHub page, I enabled the number of file limit to 10,000. And then I set up the environment variables here, but I didn't pass the environment variables. I prefer entering the password every time I log in. So these are just some fake variables. I didn't update them. And then this is the path where our settings files will be. This is useful when you are using the UI piece, but in our case, we don't use the UI. Or actually, if you make any configuration changes in the settings, it will save there, but I haven't made any changes. And I also hard-coded to paper mode only. So everything we are doing here is on paper account, no, not the actual account. And then for the settings to be saved, we have exposed a Docker volume to the container where it will write the settings file. So when we restart the container, the settings are saved. So that's about the Docker Compose file. And I added this one in my local environment to the Docker file. I'll open that quickly once. Yes. So this is the file. This is the Docker Compose file I have. and I have it set up like this. And then there is a backend Python file container, backend Py. Backend Py container is also running on the same Docker network. So that's why the backend Py container will be able to access the IBKR API port, even though API port is not exposed to the host. And these are my running containers. If you see here, I have IBKR up, and then I have my backend py also up. Both containers are running on the same Docker Compose file. So I'll switch to the Python file. So this is the Python code IBKR provides, a test client. So this is the IBKR Python code base. And then they provide a test bed. So today we're going to use the test bed to put a sample order in, and then we'll cancel it. So program.py is the program which runs to to create the order. So in the main, it takes a parameter minus C to do a global cancel. In our test scenario, when we put the test order, we want to cancel it. So when we run this program.py with minus C, it will cancel the order. So we'll do that after we place a trade. So like I mentioned, API is running on port 8888, and the host name would be the container name, which is the IBKR. So now I'll go ahead and place an order. So before we do that, the code base, there is a location in the top where it runs the test case. So at line, so once you download this program from their website, in program.py file, these are the test cases it runs, and at line 280, it does the order operation. If I go to that definition, so it's going to, in that function, it's going to place an order US stock, which is SPY. It's going to sell one at a price limit order, sell one SPY at 50, and then it also does a market order of buy at price 100. And the market is closed now, so anyway these orders will not go through, but for testing we can run that today. So let me run that. Look at the trader desktop. Now we can see both the orders, the sell order of at limit 50 and buy order of quantity 100, market order of SPY. So this is the trader desktop I was mentioning. So IBKR provides the trader desktop and the API. We use the API to place the order, and we are checking the order in the desktop. I open the desktop to just show you that the orders are there. Now the other thing is IBKR allows only one connection at a time, either from the desktop or the API. So when I log into the desktop, the API connection was broken. So that we have seen that the orders are there, which is to the Python client. And I'll place a cancel order. Minus C is a global cancel. It will cancel all the orders that are in the system. So now once I canceled, order cancelled, there's no reason, but the order should be cancelled. Back to the desktop, I'll recall order is deleted from here. So with that, we showed how we cut, and then we cancel the order. I'll go back to the documentation page. We placed an SPI limit order, and then we canceled it today, and then we canceled the order. So in the next session, we'll do something similar with with either the C++ client, or we'll try to do some more. We'll explore a little bit more on this Python API client. With that, I close today's session. If you have any questions, please ping me in the YouTube channel or in the documentation page. There is a discussion tab here.